To Be a Man, edited by Keith Thompson, that book I showed you at the beginning. Another part of the Cooper Thompson essay. Ultimately, violence is the tool which maintains what I believe are the two most critical socializing forces in a boy's life. Homophobia, the hatred of gay men who are stereotyped as feminine, or those men believed to be gay, as well as the fear of being perceived as gay, and misogyny, the hatred of women. The two forces are targeted at different classes of victims, but they are really just the flip sides of the same coin. Homophobia is the hatred of feminine qualities in men, while misogyny is the hatred of feminine qualities in women. The boy who is called a fag is the target of other boys' homophobia, as well as the victim of his own homophobia. While the overt message is the absolute need to avoid being feminized, the implication is that females and all they traditionally represent are contemptible. The United States Marines have a philosophy which conveniently combines homophobia and misogyny in the belief that when you want to create a group of male killers, you kill the woman in them. This is one of those areas that's a difficult one to talk about. Right, this is, how do you deal with guys calling each other fag and implying that they're gay? I don't know many, kind of masculine guys that don't do this in one way or another. You ready for this? A lot of gay guys do this too. Really. If you live in LA for a while, you just hang out in Hollywood, you'll see this happening. It's a little weird when you see two guys like talking and one of them goes, fag. And then they're upset. It's interesting, right? It's a complex topic. It's multidimensional. There are a lot of aspects to this. Everyone's moving around getting uncomfortable. Everyone's going, well, could we just not talk about this at all? Get on to the other part. This gay stuff is weirding me out a little too much. The reason I stuck here is because I'm going to open a bigger can of worms here pretty quick. The pressures of homophobia and misogyny in boys' lives have been poignantly demonstrated to me each time I have repeated a simple yet provocative activity with students. I asked them to answer the question, if you woke up tomorrow and discovered that you were the opposite sex from the one you are now, how would you and your life be different? Think about that for a sec. What if you woke up tomorrow and you were a woman? Girls consistently indicate that there are clear advantages to being a boy, from increased independence and career opportunities to decreased risks of physical and sexual assault, and eagerly answer the question. But boys often express disgust at this possibility and even refuse sometimes to answer the question. In her reports of a broad-based survey using this question, Alice Baumgartner reports the following responses as typical of boys. Quote, if I were a girl, I'd be stupid and weak as a string. Quote, I would have to wear makeup, cook, be a mother, and yucky stuff like that. Quote, I would have to hate snakes. Everything would be miserable. Quote, if I were a girl, I'd kill myself. Isn't it interesting that men give their power away to women without even hesitating? But when asked the question, what would life be like if you woke up tomorrow? They realize that that's not what they would want for themselves. We have a lot of fear of our inner feminine qualities. The anima and the animus. All humans have at least some structures of the opposite sex present inside of them. This comes from Carl Jung. The anima is the female archetype structures in the male, and the animus is the male archetypal structures in the woman. As men, we're taught to repress the anima inside of us. Common themes among men: discomfort in the presence of men who act weak, looking down upon homosexual men because they are seen as somehow less than a man, gay jokes. Your animus is there. If you repress it, it will come back to haunt you. Repressing versus integrating. If you repress something, you push it down, you suppress it, you try to push it into your unconscious. I don't want to deal with that. When you integrate something, you accept it, and you integrate it into your life. You take the useful parts and you integrate them into your life, and then you transcend it, and you move to a different level. It's still part of you, but it no longer rules your life. It doesn't dominate you. There are female structures inside of you. They are there. There are male structures inside of a woman. They're there. Keep fighting them, they will keep biting you in the ass. And one more quote from Thomas More, from that book, To Be a Man. Jung thought that one of the most pressing psychological needs of every person is to reconcile these two figures of the psyche, anima and animus, or soul and spirit. That is to say, so as not to be at war within oneself, one has to find a way to befriend the female and male figures within oneself and out in the world. This implies that male is not simply a man's way of being. Man is the source of the metaphor, but the male spirit is something needed by men and women, by both societies and individuals. The anima and the animus. The male and the female in all of us. In order to go from being a boy to being a man, part of that process is, like I said, detaching from the women in your life, being able to go off on your own, to leave your mother. But it's also being able to accept, integrate, and transcend the woman that's inside of you. Then you can cross over into being an adult male.